Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mountain Lake Journal. I'm Tom Halleck. This week, Novabus, based in Quebec, has announced its largest contract ever here in the U.S. to build hundreds of environmentally friendly buses for Metro New York at its plant here in Plattsburgh. Novabus invited community and political leaders to their showroom to announce the new contract to sell New York's Metropolitan Transportation Authority 165 hybrid buses beginning this spring, with options for delivering as many as 500 hybrid and diesel buses over the next 2 years.
So it's a good long order, and it'll be a good run for us. It is good news for New York State, since this new contract will create approximately 42 new jobs for Novabus here in Plattsburgh, and additional jobs at our suppliers throughout the local area and New York State and the U.S.
And it comes right on the heels of another major contract with the MTA for more than 300 Prevost buses built in the same factory in Plattsburgh.
Last fall, Prevost, our other product line here in Plattsburgh, announced its largest U.S. contract of its history as well. And that contract was also awarded to the MTA. So again, two great contracts for us over the next several years.
Together, the two contracts will add 70 jobs at the plant.
This is important. This is a big deal. It really is. It creates jobs here, creates jobs all around to our spin-off companies, which creates a great economy here in the North Country. We keep doing it, we keep working at it, and we'll continue to do it.
This truly is good news. And I see the employees who are here, who are part of this, and many, many others that are in the area. It's good news to them, it's good news to their families, it's good news to the business center here that we have in Plattsburgh. To have a vibrant economy is critical.
Leaders with the Quebec government say Plattsburgh's growing transportation cluster shows the strong economic ties between New York State and Quebec.
What we have is really a real supercluster, transportation supercluster cross-border with tremendous value to both economies. And Novabus' success in the U.S. helps maintain quality jobs on both sides of the border.
And North Country Chamber President Gary Douglas says in just a little more than 10 years since opening this plant in Plattsburgh, Novabus has quickly become a leading manufacturer at the forefront of a changing transportation industry that he says will bode well for Novabus and Prevost as more municipalities and transit systems across the state look to hybrid and electric buses in the future.
This would be a big announcement all by itself, any day of the week, 500 buses. I mean, 500 buses here, 500 buses there. Pretty soon you're talking about producing an awful lot of buses. But it's on top of, as has been mentioned, that record-setting order for Prevost just a few months ago from the MTA. And it needs to be mentioned that the other part of this relationship that we have between this area and Novabus is they are teeing us up, folks, for the next wave of growth in the future, which is electric buses.
Douglas says there are now 54 transportation and aerospace companies in the North Country that employ 9,000 workers, more than 300 of them here at Novabus. On the very same morning that the North Country's political leaders were here for this big announcement, they also outlined their legislative priorities for the year at what's become a tradition, the Chamber of Commerce's legislative breakfast. Filling in gaps in cell and broadband coverage and criminal justice reform were among the big issues. With the budget season in full swing, Billy Jones and Dan Stec said they would like to see negotiations stick to budgetary items.
In New York State, we have this awful history of including things that have nothing to do with revenues and expenses in what is a $176 billion budget.
Stec says often controversial items like the new criminal justice reforms are put into the budget to improve their chances of getting passed.
We fundamentally changed the criminal justice system without involving the Sheriff's Association and the District Attorney's Association. I mean, that's irresponsible, that's reckless.
Stec has called for a full repeal of the new law, and then with more input from law enforcement and district attorneys, moving ahead with changes.
And what kills me, though, is that the path now, the proposed path to fix these things is to do it where? In the budget.
Senator Little said cell phone coverage remains at the top of her list of priorities.
We've got to cover the gaps, and it's all about our health, safety, and our economy.
Assemblyman Billy Jones, who sits on a cell coverage legislative task force with Senator Little, says up to 50% of the calls and emails coming into his office deal with cell phone and internet coverage and filling the remaining gaps across the North Country.
And that just goes to show how important it is to all of us to be connected to the world, to be connected to this 21st century economy through the internet and through cell phone.
Along with funding, Assemblyman Stec says state regulations need to allow for taller towers. And Senator Little argued that the Adirondack Park Agency's requirement for cell towers within the park to be nearly invisible is impossible.
We also need better verbiage with the APA within the park, and then that's where a lot of those roads are, where we have the gaps. Substantially invisible cell tower is an impossibility. In the Catskills, they use least obstructive. So streamlining them, helping and encouraging and incentivizing those cellular companies to come forward, that we're going to make it easier for you to put up cell phone towers in the North Country is where we have to be.
Thank you, Betty. Throughout the breakfast, community leaders and the two assemblymen honored Betty Little for her 25 years in Albany, serving in both the Assembly and now for nearly 20 years in the state Senate. Little is retiring at the end of the year.